So this is part 2 in a 2-part series about Revolution Slider, which is a plugin for WordPress that allows you to put a slider just about anywhere in your WordPress site. You can do a widget, you can put it into a post, you can put it to a page. So really flexible as far as where you can put it. It's also responsive, so if you're using a tablet, a phone, or any other device, it will resize for that screen size pretty well automatically. You can still manually set those settings, but the automatic setting works pretty well. If you didn't watch my first video, we created this basic slider and then put it into a widget on the side. I'm not going to go over what I went over in that video, obviously, to keep from being repetitive. I went over some of the different settings within the slider and some of the different features and bells and whistles, and I may kind of skim through that on the second one. So if you get kind of lost, or if you want more detail on some of the settings for the slider, you might want to check out that first video. The second one, we're going to do something a little more complex. On the front end, it's going to take us longer to set it up, but what it does is it automatically allows us on the back end to display different sliders without having to go in and manually change the slider content. So this first slider, if I wanted to change the content on it, I would have to go in to edit slides, edit a slide or add a new slide. It can get kind of tedious to do that if I want to do that frequently. But this new setup, every time I add a new post to a certain category, or whatever categories I pick, it is going to automatically change the slider content, because within that post, I'm going to specify a featured image. So the background is based on the featured image, and then the text is based on a template we're going to set up. So a two-step process. We're going to set up a template, and then we're also going to create a slider. And then actually the third step, we're going to kind of go in and create a template slider within this template. So first thing though, we're going to create a template slider. We're going to call it template 1. Template 1. I'm going to leave this auto responsive. I'm not going to mess with any settings. Leave all that alone. Create it. And then we're also going to need to create a new slider. This slider is going to pull in the slider info off of the template slider. So this is going to be slider 2. Slider 2. Instead of gallery, I'm going to use posts. And I'm going to, as my category, if I had multiple categories, I could choose those, I believe, on this. But I'm just going to leave it as my one category, obviously. Something also to take note of, I can choose how many posts I want per slider. And usually this excerpt's going to take up a lot of your slider if you've got 55 words. So I usually take this down, some, depending on how big you want your text to be for it. So create it. And then now I've got to go in. You're going to notice your number of slides on your slider 2 is 0, and your number of slides down here in your template is also 0. That's because we still have to go in our template and create a template slide that specifies where we want, like our title and our excerpt and all that stuff to go. This needs to be transparent, so we're going to choose that. Edit. And then alright, so we're going to add a layer, and I want to replace this text with insert post template. We're going to do the title first. I want that to be, title to be bigger than that, so let's grab that and place it over here. Okay, so there's our title. I'm not going to mess with the size of that or anything, but I am going to do some of that on the excerpt. So we're going to insert post template, replace that text with excerpt. Whoop. Delete that, and I want to change this. We'll do this, but I really don't want the text to be that big. So let's edit the style. Now the visual ways to drag these sliders, these get kind of annoying to me, but I'll try to use this because it just hops around and everything else. else. Okay, so you know I want my line height to be a little bit big or even with the size of the text. I want a little bit of a gap between my lines, so I'm going to leave that 39 and 34. The weight, I like that. I'm not going to do anything else. If I wanted to, I could go in the advanced editor. We might have to use this later, and I could specify my font size and line height in there. But we're going to leave that alone for now. There's some hover properties too if I wanted to use that, which I'm not. Okay, so we're going to save it. I don't want to just save it. I want to save as, because I still want to be able to use large white background like it was. So save as, and then excerpt, save as new. Okay. So it's adjusted the size of that. And I could go in if I wanted to and, you know, change the layer animations and all that. I'm not gonna, if you watch the first video, you can see how to adjust that, or you can just play with those settings if you want. So we're just gonna leave it like it is, update it. On the first slider, if you're doing a basic one, you can just click preview and it'll preview it for you. But this one, because it's pulling the information from posts, it's better to go in and actually create the slider and then preview it on the page. So we're going to put this onto a page, and we're going to choose it out of here. I'm not sure why it did that. And we'll give it plenty of space. Update it. So if we go back, let's see. That's where I was working on that page earlier. No, that's it right there, isn't it? Okay, so we reloaded it. And there's our title. There's our excerpt. And then this, if I go into, this is post 2. So if I go to post 2, you're going to see that that's my featured image. Now you can notice how it's kind of cut off. So I could kind of fix that if I want to by adjusting my slider height. Let me go ahead and do that. Let's say that I know most of my posts are not going to be that wide. So I would go in here. Let's bump this up to 400. Let's try it now. Okay, well, it's getting there. Let me try 500. And you can kind of look at the ratio if you're using you know, you can look at the dimensions on your pictures you're taking if you're using a camera or something like that and get an idea of the ratio and just try to get this ratio, you know, the same. It doesn't have to be exact. It's going to crop the picture or stretch it just a little bit if it needs to for the slider. So that's getting pretty close. I'm just going to leave that alone. Another issue we notice is, well, I could drag the post. That looks like it's kind of, I would probably either want to make it flush on the edges or drag that down a little bit. And then our excerpt, you'll notice, is being cut off on the edge. So there's 2 things we can do about the excerpt. I'll kind of fix both of these at the same time, but the spacing and the excerpt. So let's go and look at our template here. Okay, so I'm going to drag that title, try to get as flush as I can up there. Same thing with the excerpt. I don't care about spacing on that. Okay. And then when I'm looking at my excerpt, I'm actually in the wrong area. Let me open that in another. And I forgot to save it. So hoorah on that. Wrong spot again. It gets confusing because I can't remember which the template or the slider. I would, it seems like you could set that down there. But, limit the excerpt to, take it down to 7. So I haven't fixed the spacing issue yet, but let's see if I can fix. Okay, okay. And I could probably make it, a couple more words if I wanted to, maybe 9 or 10. Let's see what this next one does. Yeah, so 2 different things I could do. Well, multiple things actually. I could make the text smaller. I could, just change that excerpt size or the number of words in the excerpt. I could, this is kind of a third option. I can make the excerpt longer, but I can make this box come down on the left side, which would cover, her face and her daughter's face, I guess, but at least it wouldn't cover the whole picture. So let me do that. Let me increase this back to, let's make it 20. And then we'll go in here. And now we're going to edit or update the spacing on this. I'll put that there. Put that there. And then, okay, so here's our excerpt. Edit style. This is this does take some manual entry into the CSS if you want to do this. So we're going to go in advanced. I have to specify the width because right now it's just basically going to take it all the way across. So I don't want it to go all the way across. So I'm going to say I want the width to be, about 30% or something. And then I've also got to put in, so if I don't put this in, then the text keeps going while the width of the white area is cut off. So we're going to do the white space normal. Make that important just to make sure it sticks. This time I'm just going to save it because it's my excerpt I've already created. So that's saved. Update. Reload. Let's see how it's looking here. Post to. Okay. Well, it's. Now that I've got that pushed against the edge, I don't know how well I like it, but. So I'll probably end up fixing that. So we'll take that off the edge. I don't like the spacing. You notice it's got more spacing on the left and right than it does the top and bottom. But it looks like the amount of words is actually pretty close to what it needs. I could actually increase the amount of words, I guess, and it would go all the way down. So I'm not going to mess with how many words, but I am going to mess a little bit. Let's adjust the spacing a little bit here. Okay. And then the other thing I noticed was the padding on it. So here's your padding. I could also do this in the simple editor if I wanted to. Let's just make 15 all around. Okay. Save it. Save it. And then update it. Well, it's doing, it must have changed. Did it take something out of my CSS because I didn't do advanced? It did. And this is what I was talking about with the white. So, no more visual editing. All right, we're just going to stay in advanced and put back the white space. Save it. Too much saving. Update. Reload. Okay. Yeah, that's better. It's got this timer line at the top, which isn't going because I'm hovering over it. But so really, the post could come down. I'm not going to sit here and adjust that and everything. And I can make this kind of transparent if I wanted, where their faces would still show in the back using the custom CSS. So that's just some stuff off the top of my head that you could do. But you can do searches for transparency on CSS and adjust that if you wanted to mess with CSS some. But that'll give you an idea. And you don't even have to use the advanced. You could stick to the basic and just adjust your number of words or make your text smaller and have it go across the screen. So lots of options. If I wanted it to go, let's see, let me do one more thing and I'll just leave it like this. Let's say I want it to keep going across the screen. But not all the way where it cuts it off. I've just got to specify how far across the screen I want it to go. So I changed that to 90%. And you see what it's going to do. I could probably change that to, depending on the spacing on this side, I could probably change that to 95% or something. And it would cut it off. So if I wanted, say, 2 lines here, I might cut my words back by 4 words or something. And then make that 95, 98%. And I could space it that way. So when it comes to, if you want to get picky on your spacing, you may have to mess with the CSS a little bit, but out of the box, it does work, and it can show just a little excerpt, or if nothing else, you could just show the post title. You don't have to show, the excerpt if you don't want to. Another thing you might want to do, you may want to have it where when they click on the title, it'll take them to the post. So to do that, that is a little bit of custom code, but you can do that right here, and this is what you're going to put in. We're going to insert post template, the link. It puts it at the end even though I'm on the right spot. Okay, let's try that. And the color of that and what it does when you hover, that's kind of the CSS of your site. Depends on what that's set to. That could be set as well within Revolution Slider. Maybe in the hover settings, but we're not going to get into that. So we're going to click this, and it takes us, to the post. And it'll do that for every, and that's the great thing about the template. Once you have this set up, and you got the colors the way you want, the layout the way you want, it's going to keep doing this for everything as long as you're still making your post. So see, your second one's doing the same thing. But this is kind of the thing with this too, is you'll notice this second post doesn't have anything. That's because if you go to the Hello World post, there's not a featured image set. So you want to make sure you have a featured image set, or there's a plugin that can allow you to, by default, if you don't set a featured image, it'll set one for you that you've specified. So it'll at least not leave that blank. You'll always have some sort of featured image. It could be just a basic color, or something like that. But I'm going to set a featured image for this. We'll just make it this blue. Update. All right, the last thing we're going to do is change this, or I'll show you how to change this to another color on your title if you want to. And I'm just going to do this on a global level because I just don't think that orange should ever be used. Now, on certain sites with certain color schemes, it might work, but I'm going to opt just to not have it. So we're going to edit the global style, and then all of these, we're just going to change it all to white. I could have it, and that's FFF. So we're going to just do FF. All right, and then save it. Yes. Update. Back to the main page. And then So we changed the title to white, and it's looking good. Everything's not perfect. You could still go in and tweak the CSS, but this is at least functional, and it'll definitely save you some time. I know I definitely love Revolution Slider, and I highly recommend it. And I hope if you get a chance, go out and get it, and make sure you use it for your WordPress site.